Hello guys, and welcome to today's second video. And in this video, we're going to be talking about tropical storm Malakas that has formed in the Western Pacific. Now, this is the first tropical storm and named storm of the Northern Hemisphere season, which includes North Indian Ocean, the West Pac, the East Pac, and the Atlantic. Yes, we are starting to cross off the list. We've had systems form in the North Indian Ocean. We have had storms now form in the West Pac, and then sooner or later, East Pac and the Atlantic are going to wake up. So we're getting into that time frame. But right now, we're talking about tropical storm Malakas here, and obviously, as you see from the ATCF, the ATCF runs off the Joint Typhoon Warning Center, which has not officially named this yet, but the JMA is the one responsible for naming this system, and they have indeed pulled the trigger on calling it Malakas. So right now, it has maximum sustained winds of 40 knots or 45 miles per hour, and the minimal central pressure is 999 millibars. And as you can see here, it's blowing up some convection. It's still kind of disorganized. It's still trying to get its act together a little bit. But I feel in the next 24 hours, things are going to start to go with the system. And as you see the pretty decent rotation here with the system and the convection that is blowing up near the center of circulation. And that's what firmly caused the JMA to announce this as tropical storm Malakas. And we're going to have to see how it all pans out. Right now, the Joint Typhoon Warning Center has a peak of 105 knots, so that's about 120 miles per hour or so, give or take. So I'm going to have to see how that pans out through to the next couple of days. All right, speaking of the Joint Typhoon Warning Center, here we are. So this was the old advisory here. And as you can see, we're at 40 knots now. So this is probably going to be upped a little bit because they weren't expecting 40 knots until tomorrow morning. So we could get another update and rise of the peak winds for tropical storm Malakas here. And, they could bump it up to 110, maybe 115 knots. We just don't know. But I do expect that the peak is going to be a little bit higher than what it is right now, and it's going to safely go out to sea. It might give some increment wear here for Yap, but most of the main core of the system is going to be not dealing with anything, in terms of any of the islands for right now. We're going to have to see how it pans out once we get up to the north and the northeast, where Euro 2 here could possibly get some impacts. We don't know yet. We're just going to have to see. All right, so here's the GEFS track and minimal MSLP. And right now, we are looking at a pretty decent cyclone here, or typhoon. I mean, I forgot that the southern hemisphere is where the cyclones form, and well, the North Indian Ocean too. But typhoon, a lot of these members take it to typhoon. So it may seem like a pretty safe bet to forecast a typhoon at this current point in time. You see some pinks here. That's indicative of 950 to 970. So most of these, get down pretty low. We got a few greens, but that's just one. There's one green. Most of these, ensemble members take it to a typhoon. So, but like I said, Euro 2 might need to watch out for this system. Inclement weather. Yap is definitely going to get some inclement weather from this, but it's not going to get the core of the system. So, just bear in mind that you guys are probably going to get some decently bad weather from this. All right, so here is the GEPS tracks and MSLP. And as you guys know, the GEPS is never more enthused than the GFS is. But it does get it down pretty decently here. We got oranges, we got reds. So we're looking from anywhere from 990 to 980 to 980 to 970 here. So at least the GEPS is, most of the ensemble members are predicting a typhoon out of this. So At least it's staying consistent with the idea of it becoming a typhoon compared to these members and these members. So, we could see our first typhoon of the season here if things keep up the way they are. All right, so now we're going to take a look at the GFS. And as you guys know, this was, formed from a monsoonal, mess here. You can see all the moisture here. So this is clearly a monsoon here. So here's our system, 1,000 millibars here. So what we're looking at here is 8 knots of shear and 87% relative humidity, which is pretty decent if for development of this system farther than it is right now. And let's see, 24 hours out, we're at 990. It kind of looks like a little bit of a mess here. Like I said, it's a monsoon, system. 14 knots shear and 88% relative humidity. It's pretty good, but not like the 8 that it was shown, on the earlier pass here. And then we got 996, but then you see this other system here that's trying to form here. This is the remnants of 94W, which is still trying to hang on there. And as you can see, they're getting pretty close together here. We're at 996 millibars for at least tropical storm Malakas here. Malakas. So 16 knots of shear and 93% relative humidity. So the shear is getting pretty up there in terms of what is good and what is, iffy. So now we're going to go 72 hours. And as you can see, 94W starts to fall apart, but, not until after it forms does it fall apart for this system right here. We got 10 knots shear, 91% relative humidity. So everything is still good here on Malakas' front. So now we're going to go 96 hours. And as you can see, now we got another system that's trying to form here. Like, what is this? There's 94. What's 94? There's Malakas. Or Malakas. There's another system that's trying to form here. It's just a total mess of systems here. But here's our main feature right here. And we are looking at 18 knots of shear and 76% relative humidity. So, we're still looking kind of decent. And as you can see, it turns into such a massive system here that, like I said, it's definitely monsoonal in nature. But here we are, we're at 977 millibars, and Malakas is, this is pretty much a typhoon at this point. So let me double check the soundings here. We're at 5 knots shear and 71% relative humidity, so that's pretty decent despite this monsoonal, let's take another look at that. Look at that. We have one system, there's two systems that's trying to, form. There's another one right here, and there's Malakas right here. So that's an interesting evolution that the GFS has for this system. All right, so now we're going to take a look at the European for Malakas here. And here's our system, 1,000 knots. We are looking at 4 knots and 80% relative humidity, so that's all good on that front. Here's 997 here, so it's getting its act together just a little bit more in a 24-hour time frame. 12 knots shear and 83% relative humidity. It's pretty decent. 48, 992. So now we're 2 days out from here. 16 knots, which is so-so. 85% relative humidity, which is pretty decent. 988, and then we're looking at 982 to end the European 18Z run, which only goes about 90 hours or so. So 6 knots shear and 84% relative humidity, and 982 millibars, which is definitely a typhoon at this point. All right, so the final model we're going to go over is the H-Wharf here, and it's got a pretty decent, signature to it as well. when we go out later through time, we are looking at 21 knots of shear. That is not a good look, at least for not right now. But the relative humidity in the hot water should be probably negating that, which is 92% relative humidity, and we're talking about 29 to 30 degrees Celsius water. So that can kind of offset the shear a little bit, believe it or not. Here we are at 24 hours. I mean, we're at 997 here. We're looking at 11 knots of shear, which has dropped pretty good here. 86% relative humidity. 48 hours, it's still kind of staying steady at 995 millibars. 7 knots of shear and 89% relative humidity. So this should be a go for any strengthening going forward, which it does. And now we're at 989 millibars. We are still looking at 6 knots of shear and 88% relative humidity. So this is still, in that very green lit a go kind of atmosphere. And now it really starts to take off. Now we're looking at 970 millibars here. And, the shear has increased at this point to 19 knots, which, I mean, it's a decent amount of shear, but not enough to really offset the system. We're looking at 92% relative humidity at this point. And then, as you can see, it goes boom pretty much to 953 millibars, that's a decent category 3 typhoon here at this point in time. So with that, we're looking at 20 knots of shear though. So there's probably going to be some, messing around with the system, trying to blow some convection off towards the southeast as we head out to this point in time. 81% relative humidity. So, we're just going to have to see what happens. Each model that I've shown here wants to take this up to a typhoon. So we cannot take it off the table whatsoever. Now, the last thing I want to talk about here before I head out is the sea surface temperatures. And as you guys can see here, we got plenty of warm waters to work with. We got 30s, 29s, 28s, 27s, going all the way up here to the 20 north line. So it's going to have until at least 20 north to really deal with the warm sea surface temperatures in the Western Pacific and try to do something with it. But after it gets past the 20 north line, that's when it's going to start to slowly bite the dust a little bit and go towards the end of the system once we get up to that point in time. So, with that said, looks like we got fairly decent wind shear values for strengthening, and we got the sea surface temperatures for intensification, and we also have the relative humidity, which is pretty decent. So all in all, I would expect a typhoon out of Malakas as we head out towards the next couple of days, or 5-6 days. All right, with that being said, I want to thank you guys for watching. I will be back again with another video, guys, tomorrow. Have a nice night.